good morning. So in this semester, I will be engaging your paper whose title is International Finance. And there are four, electives in finance. One of the elective is international finance. Another is, behavioral finance, financial markets, and one more paper. So there was 5 papers offered in finance, but for your batch, one of the paper that is project finance has been dropped. So this is a 4 credit paper, international finance, and which has 5 units. I have already shared with you the syllabus, and I welcome you to this course. Various topics are discussed in this syllabus. For example, uh, one of the topic is foreign exchange market. Another topic is, for example, the derivatives in the international market, especially the currency derivatives, because whenever trade between two countries happen, two currencies are involved. So, so naturally, the topic of currency is very integral to this syllabus, that is international finance. Then we will also study the various risk management techniques associated with foreign exchange. And every topic that is the topic of financial management, then it is studied from the perspective of cross-country transactions, or from the perspective of multinational corporation, MNC. That topic becomes the topic of international finance. For example, in financial management, one of the topic is, capital budgeting, then raising of money, then utilization of money, then distribution of the money. These are the major decisions, major financial decisions. So when the same decisions are studied in the international context, that topic becomes the topic of international finance. This is a very broad, subject, that is international finance. So today we will start talking about some background of how international monetary system has evolved over time. And of course, the concept of currency is very integral to this, because in international transactions or in any international trade, exchange of currencies happen, especially because every country has its own currency. So the topic of exchange, the exchange of currency, and the currency markets, we will discuss those topics in this course. But for today, let us try to understand how the current monetary system has evolved over time. Monetary means money. The word monetary has its root in money. So monetary system, basically the system of money, and the word international has been added in this word. So when the money system is studied in the international context, that perspective, that field of study and knowledge is termed as international monetary system. So right now we have country level monetary system. Similarly, we have international and global level monetary system. We have World Bank, we have IMF, International Monetary Fund, IMF. We have IMF, we have World Bank, and there are other financial agencies at the world level. So initially, when civilizations were not evolved, the system that was prevalent is known as barter system. Under the barter system, there was no currency, there was no money actually. Goods were supposed to be exchanged with goods. So, so money was not invented actually. So I mean, the barter system was there in, before thousands of years back. Even in known civilizations, for example, in India, we have a very old civilization. Similarly, in Mesopotamia, we have very old civilizations. There are a lot of old civilizations. The remnants of those civilizations are still there, and there are some evidence that indicate that currency was used even in those civilizations. Some of the metal coins are found, but even if before those civilizations, the system that was there in existence is known as barter system. So barter system is a system in which you know goods are exchanged with goods. There is no money that can act as a medium of exchange. There are three basic functions of money. Remember this thing, I'm telling you very important things. So say for example, uh, three basic functions of money. So one of the basic function of money is medium of exchange. Another function is store of value, and then we have another function of money, that is unit of measurement. So medium of exchange, store of value, and unit of measurement. So say for example, if some any commodity is there and we have to express the value of that commodity, that goods, we have to choose some unit to express the value of that goods or that product. So that is also one of the main function of money. That is measurement of unit of measurement. So money is also a unit of measurement. So in the barter system, there was no money. So goods were supposed to be exchanged with goods, and if somebody wants to store value, he has to store the value in terms of goods, in terms of products. And there will be cost associated with the storing of that value. Place will be required. A huge place will be required. So, say for example, somebody wants to store value in terms of grains. Say there is a farmer, and that farmer wants to store the output of from farming, that is grains. So he needs a place to store, a huge place to store the output, store the grains. Similarly, there will be costs associated with the storage cost, holding cost, security concern. Damage from natural, for example, the sunlight, the raining may damage that stock. So there are different kinds of risk. So under the barter system, there were multiple challenges with that, multiple problems. One of the main problem with the barter system was that counterparty, search for the counterparty was very difficult. Say, for example, I have grains and I want clothes. So I have to search for someone who is ready to sell clothes and wants grains in exchange or wants wheat in exchange. So, for example, if I have wheat, another party has uh, cloths. So the person who has cloth wants wheat in exchange. I am ready to accept cloths and I am ready to make payment in terms of wheat. So finding a counterparty and matching of needs of these two parties was very difficult under the barter system. So this was the main problem. There were other problems also. For example, unit of measurement. So unit of measurement, say for example, if I have to sell clothes, in which term I can express the value of those clothes. If there is no money, so how I will express the value of that cloth? So say for example, in terms of wheat or in terms of rice or in terms of pulses or in terms of what. So there are a lot of choices available. So there will be a lot of confusion. So unit of measurement, store of value, there were problems associated with store also. Some, I mean, risks associated with the storing, costs associated with storing of that product, and perishability. I mean, not all things can be stored for a long period of time because it may perish. Uh, it's a perishable item, so perishable item cannot be stored for a long period of time. So these were some of the basic problems associated with barter system. I mean, under the barter system, there was no unit of measurement. Under the barter system, there was problems associated with store of value because people needed something to store value, uh, and goods are not suitable to act as a store of value. Similarly, medium of exchange. So something has to be accepted universally as a medium of exchange to facilitate the trade. So under the barter system, trade cannot be developed. Barter system is a very huge hindrance in the way of trade, because for trade we need some medium of exchange, unit of measurement, store of value, and under the barter system all these three functions are faulty, and they need something more perfect, more efficient, uh, more effective, that can act as a store of value, that can act as a medium of exchange and unit of measurement. And another main problem that was finding a counterparty whose needs are matched with each other. So buyers and sellers need should match with each other under the barter system, and that was very difficult. So, these were some of the problems associated with barter system. So, is this clear about barter system? Is there any confusion? If you have some a question regarding barter system, you may raise your question. So, after the barter system, another system that evolved is known as bimetallism. Bi means two, metal means metal. So, which are these two metals? Can anybody tell? Can anybody guess?
So one is copper.
Abdul Ahad, no, copper was not there. Under the bimetallism, the two metals that were used as money, as currency.
So silver.
Yes, silver. Zainab is right. It was silver and what was another?
Gold, sir.
Gold. So silver and gold were the two metals that were used as money. And this continued till 1875. So between barter system and 1875, the system that was prevalent all around the world, and this is not restricted to any particular geography. In Europe also, in India also, in Arab also, in China also, in other parts of the world also, the bimetallism was there. Bimetallism means gold and silver were used as medium of exchange. The coins of gold uh, and the coins of silver were used as money. When I'm saying this, that they were used as money, I mean that they were used as medium of exchange, they were used as a store of value, and they were used as medium of exchange. The international trade was used to be happen in terms of gold coins, and the quality of the gold, the weightage of the gold coin. So all this was standardized in different countries. So the international trade was the payment in international trade was used to be made in terms of gold and gold coins and silver coins before 1875. So before 1875, those who were dealing, in international trade, those who were exporting something out of, a country, uh, say for example in India also. Uh, so in Mughal period or even before the Mughal period in India, the money was not the paper currency was not there. The coins were, and the gold coins and silver coins. Sometimes these coins were, if the currency is, if the gold and silver is being used as currency, there is no need for a government to print or to make coins of gold and silver, to issue coins of gold and silver, because gold, whether it is minted by the government or it is owned by some private person, has equal value, isn't it? So I mean, minting of coins was not under the control of the government, under the bimetallism, because but it does not mean that a government was not minting gold coins and silver coins. Every king was used to mint gold coins and silver coins, and sometimes his stamp or his photo or uh, I mean the name of the monarch was printed on that coin. But broadly speaking, monetary policy was not controlled by the government under the bimetallism system that was there before 1875. Universally, gold and
Sir, so the
silver.
capital form of economy structure is followed at that time.
Can you ask it again?
Sir, you are saying that the government or the monarch does not have any control in economy, so the capital form of structure or capital structure, the capitalist economy is there at that time.
What I'm saying is that monetary system, monetary supply or money supply was not under the control of the king. It was decided by the society. Uh, it was not under the control of the king. The king was imposing taxes. So imposing taxes is also part of the overall money system or fiscal system. Uh, but monetary system, which basically means increasing or decreasing money supply, that system is called monetary system. So, for example, right now in India, the monetary system is controlled by the RBI. I mean, how much money should be printed, what should be the interest rate charged by the bank, what should be the interest rate charged by the central bank. All these things are decided by the RBI. So we can say that monetary policy is controlled by the RBI. But before 1875, this thing, I mean, money supply related decisions were not under the control of the government. Because one of the reason was that since printing of money was not under the, I mean, it was not the job of the king to decide, I mean, what people are, what medium of action people are using. It was decided by the people, it was accepted by the people that gold coins and silver coins have value, have intrinsic value, and they were used in the international trade. So how a government can, increase the money supply? I mean, it was not the job of the government during those times. So one of the aspect before 1875 was that the international trade was not very. There was international trade, export and import were there, but it was limited. It was not happening at a very large scale. So after bimetallism, after 1875, the next system that came into existence is known as classical gold standard. Classical gold standard. Under the classical gold standard, what happened? Countries decided that let us print money. Let us print money. Let us print money or paper money, and let us not use gold coins and silver coins for medium of action. Let us keep gold and silver as reserve in our, some safe place, and against those reserve, let us issue paper currency. But they made this condition that to print new money, new reserve should be created. And the transferability from paper money to gold was allowed. So every country was supposed to, if we say for example, if somebody decides to exchange the paper money with gold, it was possible during this period between 1875 to 1915. Governments were giving guarantee to the public that if somebody wants to convert the paper money into gold, it is possible. So he may come up with the paper money, and we will give him the gold as per the reserve, how much reserve is there and how much money is in the circulation. So that period is known as classical gold standard, which ended in 1914. Can anybody tell me why this year is known? I mean, for what thing this year is known, 1914?
First World War.
World War.
Yes, World War. So First World War ended the classical gold standard. We will continue talking about this classical gold standard in the next slides also. But I'm just giving you a bird eye view what happened over the history, what happened over time, and how we have ended with this present financial system. So before the First World War, the system that was there in existence is known as classical gold standard. Every country was behaving, in a very responsible manner. No country was, printing money, and because every country was following the rule that to print money, we have to keep additional reserve of gold, and the supply of gold was limited because supply of gold cannot be increased dramatically because the gold reserves are limited in the world, and until unless some very big reserve of gold is found and mined, no country can print additional money. That was the system in the classical gold standard. But when in 1914 the World War happened, what happened? That was the period of competition between different countries. A lot of competition started to happen and every country wanted to expand its region as well as expand its international trade and ultimately its economic power. Uh, so the trust between different countries deteriorated. Every country lost trust in each other, and during this period, that is 1915 to 1944, this period was there was turmoil in the international trade, and there was almost nil international trade. And the major reason was that every country, I mean, was not following any rule. Under the classical gold standard, the rules were being followed by different countries. But in the interwar period, that is 1915 to 1944, there was no rule for money printing and currency. And there is cost. I mean, if a country is going to war, so war is not I mean, there is huge cost associated with war, isn't it? I mean, money is required, and from where money comes to a government, what is the major thing? I mean, from where the money comes from?
Sir, taxes.
Taxes. So taxes are, I mean, if a government wants to increase its, its income, so taxes is the, I mean, the main source of its income. It may increase increase taxes. But if a government decides to increase tax, the trade will get affected negatively. It will hamper the development of trade. If if so, ultimately, what will happen? The income of the government will also decline. If the government decides to increase taxes, and a very high tax will result into lower trade, and the trade will not increase because of high taxes, and as a result the income of the government will not increase. I mean, in an increasing fashion, and as the government was thinking that let us increase the tax and our income will also increase, but this is not the case. There is an optimum level beyond which if a government increases taxes, the revenue starts declining. So it's not an option to increase the taxes very high. I mean, to increase the revenue of the government. So what different countries started? They indulged in war, and they were in dire need of finance. They were dire need of money to finance that war. As I have explained, that taxes are not a viable option, because if a government charges exorbitant taxes to finance war, may not tolerate, and the business will hamper. So what they started doing, they started printing money. They started printing money without keeping reserve. Understood? So to finance war, what different countries? What were the different powerful countries during that time? All the colonizers. Germany was there, Britain was there, France, Portugal, uh, and Japan. These were some of the powerful countries of that time, and so they stopped following the rule that was decided under the classical gold standard system. They started printing money, and what was the motivation for this? To finance war, because war includes a lot of expenditure, and from where that expenditure, from where that money will come. So they decided to print money, flouting the rule of keeping the equivalent reserve in reserve of gold. So what will happen if some country starts to print money without any limit, without any limit? So there a competition between different countries will start. Every country started doing the same thing. That another country is not following this thing. Let us print more money. So this caused various problems. One of the problem was that it was not clear how much reserve is there in the. I mean, which country has how much reserve of gold? Because the value of the currency will be decided as per the gold reserve in their hand, isn't it? So it does not matter how much paper money they are printing. The main thing is that how much gold reserve is there in their with their central bank or with their government. Because if say for example British pound has to be exchanged with the Deutschmark. Deutschmark is the currency of Germany, and pound sterling is the currency of Britain. So if British pound has to be exchanged with the Deutschmark, what exchange rate should apply? So this was disputed thing. Why this was disputed during this period? Because it was unknown. It was unknown how much money is being printed by which country. Because in the classical goods standard system, it was known that only that money is in the circulation which has gold uh, behind that money, because no additional money can be printed without keeping an equivalent gold in the reserve. But in the interwar period, that is 1915 to 1944, this rule was flouted. Every country started printing money without keeping reserve of gold, and this resulted into doubt, this resulted into confusion and disputes between different countries. So the value of one currency in terms of another currency was very difficult to be determined. And to facilitate international trade, this thing is very integral. The exchange rate between two currencies has to be determined uh, by some unbiased mechanism. So, and that system was the gold standard system. So, so the international trade was hampered during this period, during the period of interwar period. So the international trade suffered during this period. Then countries sat down in 1945 in Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods is a small city where this conference happened. So in this conference system, in this conference, it was decided by the participant countries, by the participant nations, that let us put end to this confusion and let us formulate some rules for printing money. So it was decided that to print additional money, one country has to keep reserve of gold. And it was also decided under the Bretton Woods system that keeping reserve of gold is one option, US dollar. So if some country does not have gold, it may decide to keep reserve in terms of dollar, in terms of dollar. So dollar was decided to be as a reserve currency. And it was decided, I mean, rules and formulas were decided to decide the exchange rate between different currencies. So, so ultimately, and it was also decided that convertibility should be allowed. Convertibility means currency, paper money should, if some institution is interested in converting paper money into gold, so it should be allowed. Similarly, if some country is interested in converting the paper money into US dollar, so it should be allowed. That currency can be converted into US dollar. But later on, this system continued till 1972, and if- so countries started feeling that US is not doing a fair game. US is printing a lot of money and restricting us not to print money. The other nations thought that this is a system to keep us backward. The US itself is, not following the rule. So the trust in US dollar deteriorated. So every country, so this system continued till 1972. And after 1972, this Bretton Woods system, the rules that were decided in that conference, so this system was also collapsed. So right now, the system that is there in the all around the world, that system is a system of free market or flexible exchange rate regime. I mean, every country is free to print money. Every country is free to formulate its own monetary policy, and there is no reserve requirement. For example, especially in the context of US also, the Federal Reserve Bank is there, that prints money and that controls the money supply, and there is completely, I mean, there is zero requirement of keeping reserve of gold and silver or any other important. So there is no, I mean, keeping reserve has completely been abolished by the Federal Reserve Bank right now. Similarly is the case with most of the countries around the world. And now you may be thinking that under the Bretton Woods system and under the classical gold standard system, I mean, we had a system to decide the value of one currency in terms of another currency, because we can compare the gold reserve held by different countries, and based on their gold reserve, the currency of the value of one currency in terms of another currency can be decided. But under the current system that we have, that is known as the flexible exchange rate regime, the free market system, also we call it free market system, that is prevalent right now since 1973. The value of one currency is decided in terms of another currency by the forces of demand and supply. There are systems, I mean, buyers and system interact with each other. The sellers of currency and the buyers of currency, I mean, interact with each other. Whatever price is decided by these forces of demand and supply, that system is called the flexible exchange rate system or flexible exchange rate regime. There are various shades of this system also. In some countries, some governments intervene in the market, and there are some countries where governments completely leave this aspect to the market, let the market decide the rate between two currencies, and the government does not intervene. Some governments intervene a lot, some governments intervene less. So there are some different shades of this flexible exchange rate regime system that is prevalent since 1970. The same thing we will continue talking about in the next classes also. This was the overview of the evolution of the international monetary system. Any question, any observation?
No, sir.
All of you have written their names in the chat box. Uh,
Sir, what is the role of World Bank in IMF?
Actually, basically, the word of the role, the role of the World Bank is to finance countries. It grants loans to different countries on different terms and conditions. It's because you might have heard about fiscal deficit. Sometimes some governments, run into deficit. So from where that deficit will be covered. So it was decided that let us help each other. So a fund was established. Different countries contributed money in that fund, and some rules were formulated on what basis countries will be granted loans and what will be the terms and conditions. And so if a country is running into deficit, one of the option is to approach World Bank for loans. So it may finance the government. It does not finance any corporate body. It is basically to finance governments. So so that is the main thing. I mean, in very simple words.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm seeing here some Islamic finance students also.
Yes, sir.
So you have opted for this international finance, or you are?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is in
Okay.
our electives.
Okay. Okay. So from the next week, I mean, the schedule will slightly change. So in this, I mean, on Saturday, 10 to 12, this class will be engaged by Walid sir, and I mean, this will be exchanged with Walid sir. Walid, I will engage the allotted class for Walid sir, and Walid sir will engage my class. I mean, this in this duration. Okay, thank you very much for joining this class.